Hello, friends. Welcome to Worldbuild with us, the podcast where we create fantastical worlds with help from you, our listeners. My name is Rob Hilferty, and I'm here with Yearning Yeti, Chris Prunty. And of course, we're here with our continued special guest, Daniel Quinn. Daniel, good to have you back. On today's episode, we're actually going to be reading a bit of listener email and building our episode from there. So, to start off today's episode, we're going to be reading a bit of listener email from Cass. And Cass says, "Hey guys, I've been listening to your podcast since around episode 5 or 6, and being able to see the actual process of world building as it happens has been a gift for a baby world builder like me. Personally, what irks me just a tiny bit is when things like monsters are always in the singular, always in the same vein as the Minotaur, the Sphinx. I love it in games like Monster Hunter series or books like The Witcher, where monsters can just be different types of animals, each species with its own place in the ecosystem, rather than having a clear separation between normal animals and monsters. For example, he gives Kikimoras are useful for population control, as Marilka said in The Witcher series. With this in mind, my question / prompt / whatever, what creatures are there in the land of 1,000 gods that don't exist in our world, but are just regarded as another species by the people, rather than something that is obviously the eldritch abomination from beyond the dawn of creation? Thanks so much for all the great work you three are doing. Love y'all, Cass." And I got back in contact with Cass shortly after, and they suggested a monster of their own. And I like the concept of it, and that is actually going to be one of the monsters that I'm going to be introducing with some slight modifications. So when I reached out to Cass to kind of provide some feedback, because I wanted input to see if you had any particular monster in mind, they mentioned that they had this idea for a monster that has a bone structure similar to an ape, but with longer arms, a super swole upper half, as they say, and it attacks like a bear. Essentially, it has a bunch of large scales that jut out and down from its chest area, and it uses those as its main method of attack, more or less bear hugging its prey to death and leaving large bleeding wounds. It's not perfect. The scales chipping and breaking off would naturally be a massive issue, and I can't think of a way to fix this from an evolutionary standpoint, but it still maintains the feel of an animal. Maybe you guys will have better luck when you take a pick at it. And man, Cass, do I have my own way of my own twist on it. As you can probably tell, today's episode is all about the ecological monster, what we would consider to be something natural, something kind of animalistic, and we're each bringing our own couple ideas, some of which are not going to be giant aphids, onto the table. And we're going to start off with a continuation of Cass's idea, which is, I took the idea that they had, which is, kind of like a gorilla shape, essentially, and I kept the idea of brachiation, being able to use longer arms to kind of swing from tree to tree. And I took the idea of, instead of having like scales to kind of use as daggers, essentially, instead of scales, I wanted to treat it more like spines or thorns, kind of like a porcupine, which would help with, because you can regrow spines and stuff like that much quicker than you can scales or bone. So having some kind of protuberance like that would make a lot more sense if they were regrowable. So then you take a look at, the idea of quills like a porcupine, and they're kind of lame. Right? And even if you put them on a larger monster, it's kind of hard to be like, oh, I'm just going to be killing you with my like really rough chest hair. That's not really a great idea. But what I did like about the idea in general is the idea that you're a monster that just has these long kind of grasping arms, and they come in, they essentially give you a bear hug, and they leave you alone. And my idea is this monster, which is essentially hunts like a Komodo dragon. It comes in, it gives you a giant bear hug, allows most of the spines to snap off inside of, like your flesh. And then, it's not necessarily inherently poisonous or
filthy kind of thing. Like
it could also be filthy. Yeah. But actually that's a really good point, because now you're talking about, Ponji sticks from Vietnam, where they would smear excrement or whatever kind of nasty shit that they have on there. And, the wound just gets infected. And that's more or less the idea that I have here, is that this thing It essentially is an ambush predator. It leaps down, attacks you once by scraping a bunch of its quills off inside of you. And the way that the quills are formed essentially acts as kind of the quills themselves, they will snap off inside and then splinter even further. So actually pulling them out is incredibly difficult. And because they kind of form in clusters, you're essentially opening wounds so it infects even worse and faster. And oh yeah, it's horrifying. So the idea with that is you do that and then it basically follows you by staying up and above the trees, and it just watches and it waits for you to die due to incredible disease or just overall, like you can just bleed to death or something like that. And then once you're weak, it comes down, and oftentimes because you're not dead from the disease, just knocked out, it's starting to eat you alive.
Oh, that's nice. That's lovely. I like that.
Yeah.
So just pulling you apart, like.
Well, the idea that I had was, well, it's kind of like it just comes down and like let's say that you're a random person in a jungle or a forest and you get attacked and you kind of get woozy and you fall, like you wander off, and this disease and this fever hits you and you just get weaker and weaker until you can no longer move, at which point you just collapse, and this thing is like, okay, you're good to eat now. It just starts to pull you apart like an ape eating something. Have you ever seen that video of the chimpanzee who's eating a live impala? It's horrifying. Don't Google it. But it's I imagine it's something like that, where you just see this giant primate type thing just ripping apart like a still living animal. And Why
was it attacking that car?
Oh my God.
Do these things do they travel in groups, or are they solitary?
I imagine that they're somewhat solitary because they're larger. So, and the other thing I kind of wanted to avoid with this is I don't necessarily want them to be apex predators, because the idea of like attacking and then falling back to me is far more interesting as like a scavenger type. So normally these things could be, eating the dead, or like, fresh laid corpses. But if they need to attack, then what they'll do is, the method that I described. But they're not necessarily the best fighters. They're more like they have a very specific evolutionary design in how to hunt and eat.
Porcupine ghouls.
They're more like porcupine, Komodo dragon, apes.
Cool.
Yes.
Drop bears.
Yeah.
Drop bears are koalas.
Yeah, I know, but the fact that
You're not getting STDs from this one. Hopefully, anyway.
You said it gets infected. They penetrate you and infect you.
It's true. That you're not even wrong. But I think that when you break down how this monster kind of is, it's pretty horrifying. Like the idea that like there are these infectious quills that are just like you can't pull out. Like have you ever gotten like a piece of glass stuck under your finger?
Yes.
For example,
then it's growing over if you wait way too long.
Yeah. Or what's worse is if it breaks inside of you. Have you ever had that happen?
God, no.
It's awful. And stuff like that. That's kind of the horror that I had. And I wanted to stay true with the type of, like bear hug and then, like you're bleeding from the wounds, except this is just way more gruesome. So Cass, if you're into that, awesome. I'm glad that we can make the design work. But if you're not, you can keep it. There were some other options that I could have went with too. Like there's this weird prehistoric scissor mouth fish that a friend of mine told me about. But that I wanted to stay with the original design.
I mean, it makes me think of like when you describe them, I kind of picture them wandering around in these ruins or sort of living in these jungle ruins because they're apes. So maybe they're like at the tops of these ruins, and so you've got treasure hunters going to look for stuff, and then they encounter these creatures that are slowly hunting them.
So I'm not sure if we've ever mentioned this movie on the podcast before, but I'm very excited. Have you ever seen Congo?
Yes, that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad with the Lost City.
These are even worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that laugh reminds me. I think we have mentioned this on the podcast before, but just like The Mummy, I will never get sick of referencing Congo, the movie. Oh, yeah. It was the Wilds episode. That's perfect. Yeah. Okay, absolutely. All right. So, Daniel, why don't you go ahead with your next monster that's definitely not a giant aphid and hit us.
So, since I can't do a giant aphid, my second idea, which would have been rejected, was which I'm not doing, but I want to just mention it because it's absurd. I wanted to have a giant ladybug that had like armored plating on its wings and was vorpal, and they're like helicopter sized, they traveled in swarms, but obviously that's insane.
Swarms,
like helicopter swarms.
Yeah, no, you wanted the ladybug Martians from Futurama.
Exactly, something ridiculous. And they'd be like
mixed with like the Jabberwocky.
Yeah, people can ride them and stuff. It's cool. But we can't do that. So what I was thinking instead,
I mean, we can, but that's like
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, what would that do to the ecology? It's insane.
Exactly.
People say it exists in the new world.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, maybe that's where that is.
Maybe that's where that exists.
Whether it does or doesn't is also just people saying it.
Right. But so
dragons.
So my first monster, I was thinking. So I'm thinking of the ocean and the kind of weird creatures that could live in the ocean, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't want your typical like Leviathan or giant like Kraken and things like that. So I thought, okay, well, what about say there's volcanic depths, and in the volcanic depths of underneath the ocean, there's these like little glowing kind of like firefly things, but then they're attracted to warmth and heat, and occasionally these depths break open and they kind of spill out. And these creatures, what they're able to do is control the water in a way that makes it semi-solid. And so they kind of can turn into these, I call them like abyssal kind of colossi. And so they create these kind of like serpents of water that are kind of like a water elemental. And they're attracted to warmth, so they follow the warm currents. And then when there's storms and, like kind of like big like hurricanes and things on the water, typhoons I guess you'd call them, they come out, and that's when they damage ships and things like that because they get drawn into the storms. And so functionally they're like a microcosm, like a man of war of creatures, but
so
they
function
as as like
so
as an elemental almost,
right? But you're talking like a colony.
They're a colony of them,
things.
yeah.
Okay.
But like when people and travelers encounter them, they think this is monstrous giant like water elemental creature, or giant or colossus.
But they're more just water manipulators.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do they manipulate the water exactly?
I'm not sure, but it probably has something to do with the environment they come from, because I imagine them as surviving in like extreme temperatures.
Okay. What I'm kind of picturing, right, is that there are animals that exist that kind of carry large bodies of water, like a water sack almost.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that if they're like collecting water sacks on their back and they're a giant like a colony, then you can see this sea serpent that is like semi-translucent because of all of the water
and
that
glimmering
it's
because of the fireflies.
But it's also like semi-solid because you can see like plates of the insects or like chitin essentially.
Yeah.
And I like that idea as like a water serpent or a sea serpent or something different like that. Can it go on land, or like is it diminished on land? How does that work exactly?
I would say it probably needs like a body of like salt water to survive. So maybe it could crash against like a shore, but once it hits the water, it can't really move beyond that.
All right, and is it always a unit? Like, does it always work as a colony or like a school of fish?
I'd say yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
All right, and but my question now becomes: is it malleable? Like, can it change shapes in a lot of ways?
Yes.
Okay. So it's almost like an ooze as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's really cool.
Like, I imagine it shifting, but I imagine, like, if you've got pirates or, like, buccaneers in the ocean, they see this monstrous thing and they picture, like, a dragon or a serpent, but it could take any shape.
All right, so what about... Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That would give you, like, reason for... Oh, the Kraken tentacle is just one of these things. Now, when it comes to... So I can see kind of, like, the ecology of it. What kind of special power does it have besides the collection of water?
Maybe it's mesmerizing.
Mesmerizing. So it's a bit of a siren as well. Okay.
And then you get pulled into that area where there's a storm, most likely because of the warm currents it follows. Gets destroyed by it.
Okay, and how do they eat exactly? I mean, are they kind of like lobsters where they're bottom feeders more or less, but they cause the bottom feeding? I
guess the question would be like, how do creatures that have like high thermal like needs, what do they eat? I don't know.
I believe they're actually filter feeders.
Oh, okay, so probably so bottom feeders then,
yeah.
I'd say yeah.
All right. So I like that idea. We can kind of keep that in mind. Just like swarms of these kind of weird chitinous little scuttlebugs that also hold water. How do they attack exactly again?
Well, I think it's not so much.
Do they spray water, or do they like drag people into like dangerous areas?
Yeah,
like,
I don't think they're trying to attack so much as like you get drawn into their swarm, and so maybe like colliding with it drowns you, and you get like damaged by the collision. I don't know.
Okay. Well, no, I'm thinking of like that's for sea dwellers, right?
Yeah.
Is there any way that someone who's on a coast can be drawn into the ocean?
Oh, yeah.
Because that
would be kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Like if you see like the tentacle near the shore and it's like drawing them in.
Right.
Maybe I would say probably they end up drowning because of being drawn into it.
Yeah, and it's a matter of it's a living riptide essentially, right?
Exactly.
Because these things are already heavy from all the water and they grab onto you. It's like, oh, I can't swim because I'm being weighed down.
You're suspended in it.
Yeah, exactly. And they're buoyant, but like when there's enough of them on you, it's like you can't get out of that.
Right.
Oh, that's I love. Oh man,
yeah.
I love. Because
I didn't want them to be pernicious. I just want them to be like their natural.
They're
thing.
animals. Yeah, that's
right.
all they do. Yeah, understandable. Now, how and why would people use these things exactly?
I don't know. What do you think?
Are they delicious?
I guess they're too small. Maybe they could be used for like energy in some sort.
Well, going into the fact that this is on the ocean, maybe have it be where they filter out the salt in the water naturally. And so you could, if you catch them, you have fresh water.
That's cool.
Oh, that's actually a really good idea. Because I just read Mark Kurlansky's Salt a couple weeks ago. And it's like, instead of having to sun dry this thing, you can now have a higher risk way of doing it, and you have to capture these things.
And maybe they heat the water up too, like their little sacks can heat it
That's
up.
a good point as well. And that's how they filter it. Like that's how they filter the water. So their water
really
in their
salty.
sacks are like fresh water, and which makes them heavier as well. Which is
that works. There you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so like I can imagine them like drawing in the water, like filtering it out, and then spitting out the salt to make them heavier and sink.
Exactly.
And essentially drowning, collecting. That's horrible.
Okay, that works.
I love it.
Yeah, because then you drown.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm down with that. All right. Chris, what kind of horrible monstrosity do you have for us today?
I actually wasn't going for horrible. So oddly enough, I also wanted to do something water-based.
Really?
Yeah.
I love these little synchronicities that we get. Yeah.
I wanted to do large, not quite fish, not quite kind of like coral, but they float. And they have kind of these things that filter down both above and below the water. One is kind of filtering out food from below, and the other one is gathering nutrients from above. And they have some sort of way of propelling themselves gently through the water, and they are almost used as a beast of burden.
I was thinking like a living island in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Like the scale, I wasn't sure if I wanted to make them like larger than a boat, but still enough that in a time of need, you might be able to like go on the back of one and be like, all right, I got enough food for days. Here's hoping I hit land. And you can
like a raft in some ways. Okay.
But like a natural raft.
Okay, so obviously we're going to have the raft thing, but can we also have like the big collections of it where they're essentially small islands as well? Like I think that'd be kind of cool. Kind of like there's the
barrier reef.
Yeah. For example, like it's just a large colony of this island. And then I can also imagine like, oh, you think you're on an island, but that's actually just a collection of these things, and they've just been they kind of rat king themselves, and they're stuck together, and so there's actual island on top of them. And in a mythic sense, you can be like, oh well, that's just a living island. It's actually this is weird coral reef, or even like a what's it called? There's like an iceberg effect to it as well.
Yeah, I was thinking that could be part of the danger of them as well to ships and everything, where they're like, oh fuck, we got to move out of the way, or we got to like get the poles ready.
Oh, it's like
come
an
on,
iceberg.
Nudge it,
Ice.
nudge it.
Yeah.
But also in the collective sense of how you were saying an island, if you were to put like dirt on their back, I feel like you could grow on them almost.
Yeah,
or at least put like
a
potted
chinampa.
plants. Son of a bitch. But yeah, I wanted to do something that was just a beast of burden. This way, say you couldn't afford a ship or anything, it allows more people to get out to the ocean and everything, and also just I don't know. I feel like beast of burden and everything and pest are very common, and it's weird when you see that there's nothing fantastical about them whatsoever. It's just like, yeah, we all got horses and oxen, and also trolls.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Like you think that there'd be some. Not everything is a monster you're going to fight. It's going to be something that is just living in the world, and it's like, yeah, we've just been using these weird pack animals, and or it's kind of like in Star Wars, for example, they also have weird, like kind of beasts of burden that are just part of the setting, and you don't even pay attention to them for the most part.
Gunbacks or dewbacks.
Dewbacks, yeah.
And you can have like captains who are kind of like natural captains in that way, in the sense that they're like part of their ship is a living ship to them.
That's actually a really fun idea. If we had like a type of druid or something like that, or a nature speaker, I could easily see that being part of it.
You bind a few of them together and then you build like a house on the back, and you're just like, yeah, this is my ship. That's not a ship. Oh, yes, it is.
Oh, yeah. That's really cool. So considering that we're doing a tropical island hex crawl exploration adventure, I see that that's where your brains are. So I should mention, I should mention that I just started running the first ever RPG set in the campaign setting that we've created for the last several months. And we just had our second adventure, and it is a tropical island hex crawl adventure. And man, I'm kind of excited to see how I'm going to drop these horrible monsters inside of the game now. Because you can bet that all three of these that we've just talked about so far are going into...
God, we authored our own doom.
That is partly why this is so much fun. It's because I can kill you with your own creativity. Yeah. But now it's up to you, right? This actually brings me to another point that I really wanted to bring up. I was reading a book called Dameron by Seth Skorkowski recently. And one thing that I actually really like about what happens in the setting, it takes place in like a modern fantasy type of world. But one thing that I really appreciate about the world building is that there are, and another thing that Witcher does as well, which is also kind of what inspired me, is there are monsters that just cannot be killed by normal weapons. For example, in Dameron by Seth Skorkowski, like there's Oni have to be killed by jade unless you have a specific holy weapon. Or, werewolves have silver that they can be killed by. Rakshasa are weak to gold. And everyone has, different materials of items, essentially, that they are weak to. And I really want to bring that into this particular world, into the land of 1,000 gods, because I think it makes a lot more sense when you look at the lack of magic. How can we make more diverse monsters if, not everyone's going to have like a relic to kind of fuck with them. So we're going to have monster hunters that have specific types of material that they can go to, like types of wood, types of stone, types of jewels that help fight these monsters off. And I want to make that a larger part of the setting to make each monster a little bit more unique, it's not just a matter of magic beating these monsters. It's like there's a science to it. There is a specific tactic that you can look at. And I wanted to make that more of a thing here as well, to make things feel a little bit more mythic.
I mean, one example, just going back to like the water monster we were talking about earlier, maybe the way to fight that is by understanding how like their neural network is connected in the colony. So maybe there's a way to disrupt it, and then it would make them fall apart. So that's kind of what you're saying, like figure out a science to how you beat these creatures since they're living things.
Absolutely. Like for something like that, I imagine that there is like an irritant or some kind of, like, honestly, I'm just thinking about triggering something that it has that essentially causes an allergic reaction, and it has to dissipate in order for it to recover, because otherwise it fries, like you said, the whole neural network, the whole connectivity issue. Yeah. Or even adding like oil so it literally can't hold itself together anymore and it slips apart. Scientific, finger quotes, ways of dealing with these monsters, but ways that are clever and, adventurers and heroes. Exactly. And heroes know this way to do it.
Yeah, I see different kind of socketed weapons and other things. This way, unless you're fighting one particular type of monster all the time, you're going to be like, all right, let me put this chunk of iron in my steel sword. So.
Yes. Absolutely. Cold steel. And that's actually one of the fun things about the Dameron book is there are demon hunters, and when they have guns, it's like, okay, we need the silver obviously for the werewolves, but then they're like, okay, we have jade tipped bullets for fighting Oni, And then there are other ones. Like, it's just stuff like that where it's like, okay, we have to come prepared.
And that's just a bunch of filaments of different metals and stone into one bullet. Just like, this is my all-purpose one. I don't really know what I'm going into right now.
It's funny you should mention that because the character in Dameron actually has like a warding powder. And he's like, what's that made? The character's like, hey, what's that made out of? And he's like, whatever I found works. It's got garlic, holy water, like all sorts of like different materials and stuff like that. And it's basically an all-purpose where it's not going to get like a specific one, but man, demons are going to hate the shit out of it anyway. So I actually do want to kind of approach monsters from that type of example as well. Because again, I think that if you're trying to keep a more ecological sense of how monsters work, this is the way to do it, is give them an ecological strength and weakness within the world itself. So they're not just unkillable machines. It's like, okay, there's a way to do it. Yeah. Daniel, what did you want to go with for your second monster that you had?
In order to talk about this one, which is not milkable aphids, I think Chris, although someday, I'm going to write some stats up.
Look, I will let you have your milkable aphids if you run an RPG.
Deal.
Okay,
good. Awesome. All right. Okay.
Everyone is a milkable aphid.
Yeah, everyone plays a milkable aphid.
I will play the one aphid that has dried up teats.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's my
that one's had enough.
Character.
He's had enough. That's why.
Thanks, I hate it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I need Chris to talk a little bit about the quill in order to talk about my monster.
What specifically about the quill do you want Chris to kind of understand?
Just to remind listeners what they are, because I feel like maybe they don't remember in particular.
Sure.
So the quill themselves are an insect, not parasitic, but symbiotic race that lives in...
you keep saying that every time the quill
because I want people to know that it's not parasitic.
I know, but like it's kind of like methinks thou doth protest too much. Like that's where we're at this point.
In the game last night, people called them parasites twice.
That was me.
as insults.
Yes. So I just want...
No, because that's an insult. That I can understand. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a targeted racist attack.
I feel attacked.
Yes.
But moving on, they are a symbiotic relationship where the consciousness becomes one. So the experiences of the quill themselves and their host form a combined consciousness, and they then speak as one. But... I'm not sure if I've mentioned this in the podcast or anything previously, but say the hosts themselves would never do something and the quill themselves would always do something. If it weren't to come up in conversation when they are kind of, for lack of courting each other or interviewing one another, and it happens, it might cause a psychological break, in which case they enter a fugue state or a second personality forms that works out what they've done or what they are doing. Is that what you were looking for?
Exactly. So what I was thinking is kind of inspired by that, obviously, and by elithocytes in the Ecology.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So what I was thinking is, especially considering that you mentioned the psychotic break that can happen, is that and there's a lot of, I assume, mystery into terms of how the not parasite is attached to its host. Symbiote. What I was thinking is, what happens when things go wrong and the culture that uses these creatures don't want people to know about when it goes wrong? So in those situations, what I'm thinking is the creature itself ends up not only taking over the body, but physically taking over the body and consuming it and then growing larger. And these...
Do go on, Daniel.
And so
you have my full interest and attention, sir.
These, if you would call them kind of abortions of the process, instead of being killed because they are living entities now with a third personality, they're banished. And they end up thriving in a hidden place, in a kind of either whether it's a cave or a pool or something separate. And they end up having their own ecology because of that. So there's a hidden separate race of these creatures that have become monstrous, and usually they carry the psychosis or the trauma of the failed merging.
That's really fucking cool. Have you guys ever seen the movie Bone Tomahawk?
No, but you have recommended it a lot.
Yeah, I'm not going to say much more about that, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of Bone Tomahawk in a really fucked up way. But yeah, I'm gonna let you continue on. Go ahead.
Yeah, so to go on that, I believe at one point we talked about like serial killer Quill. That
and that was on our Halloween episode for possessions, I believe. Yeah.
But I could also see, depending on how long ago this happened, that there might begin to be a divergence.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe like in quill culture, they don't like to talk about this, but there is another type of quill, which I call the primitive, or quill primitive, that exists out there
Like
that
a
is
troglodyte.
animalistic. Yeah, it's animalistic, and they've multiplied. Now they're their own species.
Wait a minute. Can we have this? Okay, not necessarily deep old one.
No.
It's deep old one adjacent.
Yes.
Because I'm thinking it's like
Aboleth.
No, not Aboleth. I'm thinking it's kind of like the Shadow over Innsmouth, where you have that weird like fish human hybrid, and like is this proto quill, the weird troglodyte folk, are they essentially that, where you're like, you look at them and you can tell like, oh, that's clearly not a human, you know, because with the quill, right, there's that camouflage aspect where you can never quite tell if they're a human or not unless you actually start talking to them and ask them. But is there something like, there's something quite off, like they have a little bit of gray skin?
Oh, so you mean like physically? So I was picturing something very extreme. I was going the Dune angle. Like these things are literally giant worms.
Oh, really?
Yes, like they're primitive in the sense that they're not physically human anymore.
Okay.
The worm or the symbiote has consumed the host's body and become its own thing.
Okay. Can we, instead of just like a straight up worm, can we make it a worm human hybrid?
Yes, with like a little hideous little fetus body.
I just want it to be awful.
I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And one more thing I want to throw in to make it even worse.
Face.
Yeah. So
he's so sad.
Yeah, the phrase
It's
that
the
really
cool shame.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That I love this. So look at this, Chris. Your babies are getting so much play now.
I'm a Quill fan.
Yeah.
Listen, there's no relation. I have no idea what you think the relation between the Quill and this monstrosity is.
Yeah, I'm noticing now that like the more that your races kind of come into play, the more horrible they are. So that's fun. Anyway, the idea that the other phrase that I really wanted to talk about with you, Daniel, is you had this one where it's like they take on the trauma of the failed, coalescence. And I want to talk about that. I want to make sure that physically manifests in the creature itself. How do you think we could do that?
Yeah, I think that would be great. Like, suppose the trauma was like, I don't know, Chris, you had given an example offline before about like if one of the hosts, but the original host body's mind maybe wasn't like inclined to murder. Maybe they were like a pacifist, but the Quill was from a warlike history in the past. You know, like maybe then that manifests in the Quill primitive when the failure of the merging happens, and that the worm body has warlike aspects to it. Maybe it's like got like a bladed carapace, or it's got like hooked claws. Like I guess it's the psychosis manifests in its physiology in some way.
This is some real Silent Hill shit.
Yeah,
and I love it.
It doesn't necessarily even have to be someone who found joy in killing. It could be with a long enough lifespan and checkered past. It could be there are times where killing is necessary. Hot take.
Or even where it's a matter of maybe it's trauma that the Quill has experienced. You know, it's not necessarily, like everyone experiences some kind of level of trauma at some point, some worse than others, right? But the Quill, they have lifetimes of it. And so maybe it's also a collection of all of the negative energy and negative emotions that they've ever experienced. And so these are literal physical manifestations of horror and trauma in general. And it comes out in this weird worm monstrosity.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. All right. That's a great idea, Daniel. That's really fantastic. Chris, go ahead and pick us up with our final monster of the night.
Something happy.
Yeah. Tell us about your fun, happy monster that you're going to tell us all about.
You know, it actually is a fun, happy monster.
How did I know? How did I know?
Yeah, why?
Because you need something happy in your life right now.
Oh.
That wasn't even a personal shot.
No, but you're right.
Speaking of...
It's like when I named that thing Catharsis.
Yeah. Speaking of psychic manifestations of trauma, go ahead, Chris, hit us.
So I wanted these little things, and I'm once again going to butcher this, even though I listened to the name several times. Punglin? Penguin?
Pangolin.
Pangolin!
Yeah. See, after years of being friends with you, decades now of being friends with you, I have a keen translation ear for what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
It's a gift, really, and a curse.
Yes.
So tell us about your weird pangolin monster.
So I was picturing them to be
pangolin.
Scaled in that way, but to have them range as far as where they go in the world, there are the ones that are almost completely scaled like that to the ones that are almost slightly feathered. And rather than the face of an anteater, they're more like a lizard or a raptor.
Oh, okay.
My idea...
You mean velociraptor, not like bird raptor.
Yes.
Okay.
Velociraptor. Sorry. When I think of raptor, I always think lizard.
I know, we grew up during Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
It's fine. Are you doing Final Countdown?
No. No.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're right.
Yeah.
I never saw how similar those are.
No, because you did it wrong. It's...
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I did a little bit fast.
Yeah,
It's my
too
alarm
fast.
for waking up.
Is it
It
really?
is, honestly.
Jurassic Park?
Yes, it is Jurassic Park.
You see, I
Yeah.
just assumed you would hate Jurassic Park
That's
for some
one of my
reason.
favorite movies of all
Really?
time. Are you kidding me?
I also thought you would hate
Yeah,
Joy.
masterpiece.
Yeah, I love it and agree with that, but
Jurassic
for some reason I thought you would be like, no, it's a travesty.
you
The
guys-
new ones are the only good ones.
You confuse,
Wow.
Wow. Oh my god, that's like the opposite. You confuse my hatred for hatred when really it's just good taste.
Wow. Oh my god, Daniel.
Moving on.
No, you just hate Joy. That's what it comes down
I
to.
do.
there's plenty
I
of joy
do,
in
but that's a
Jurassic
separate
Park.
thing.
But anyhow, yeah, I was picturing these little rat dragons. And the way that they exist is they are
Wingless, I'm assuming.
What? Oh,
Wingless,
wingless.
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So
When you say dragon, it's, you know, it's
wormling or whatever you want to drake, I don't know, the wingless one. But the other thing that I wanted them is, besides rat dragon, they're also called sprig rats.
Ooh,
and the reason they are called sprig rats is because they do take on the nature of the things around them. So the ones that grow up in the mountains or in caves or in rocky outcroppings, they will literally eat dirt and rocks by devouring it with acid and such.
Okay, why not sprig lizard then? Because if they're like reptilian...
That could be derogative, like the spriggans.
sprig rats.
Yeah, the spriggans are just like, don't call them sprig rats.
Yeah, like, maybe not do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I tried to think of insults while I was thinking of names.
Oh, okay.
Because they're a pest. Because
All right.
say the ones that get into cities, they start eating food and everything, and then they literally take on more of a rat-like look.
Okay.
And then the ones that are out in the woods, they still decompose stuff. They'll eat trees. Not quite like termites, more like down trees for moss and everything. And I wanted it to be reminiscent of the ones that are also in cities. They might eat metal, in which case you get to reference chromatic dragons and everything that I like. But
okay. Oh, so it's literally you are what you eat in this case.
Yes.
Okay.
But
that makes a little bit more sense.
and
yeah.
then just a series of subspecies of where they are. So one of the ideas that when I was coming up with this to make them less happy was corpse brigand. I'm sorry, corpse sprig rat and such.
Bone spriggan.
Yeah, of where it's just like, what the fuck? Oh my god.
Ooh, that's
Can
really
they be
good,
familiars
actually.
or pets?
Of course.
Oh my god.
Can rats be familiar?
Wait a minute.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Now you're talking about literal like purebred. Like I've only fed
Yes.
this one peaches. like it's like it takes
Look
on.
how
like
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, people can have them as pets, but it's also the fact of it just like they will eat anything. So even an owner who has owned one will be like, oh fuck, it ate the furniture.
Wait a minute. They'll eat anything. Does that mean that they're also like the best friend to serial killers, much how pigs are the best friend to
Stop
serial
destroying
killers?
my happy little lizards.
Never.
What were the ones that eat dead things?
Oh, I was calling them either corpse rats or
they're perfect
or
for
bone
like a killer or a
spriggan.
necromancer, you know?
Yeah. Well, also
yeah.
that's another thing that's cool about them. When you show them off to someone, if it's a pet, it does display a little bit of you because you're just like, oh, this thing takes on the continents of marble. This shows how fucking I feed my thing marble. Or if you feed it trash, it kind of looks like trash. But it's like a household cat and everything. It can be handy. It disposes of waste for you.
Does it eat other like meat as well, or is it just inorganic material?
I wanted it to be
Or
opportunist decomposer. So if something isn't fighting back, yeah, because for all intents and purposes, its breath-like weapon or anything is
acid
and other things. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Digestive fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is like such a helpful monster to have in general. And again, you're going to be seeing this pop up in the campaign coming up.
Yeah. But
So,
imagine a colony of them who were just like, got into the corn.
And it took down the silo. like it ate the whole thing.
There's so many economic applications to this kind of a creature.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can imagine like the breeding kind of getting out of control and all of a sudden you lose cities to it. Also, what does that say about like ruins in general, where it's like, oh, you're losing history to this like colony of these weird Spriggan rats.
But it also goes into where people are protective of those ruins. And certain ruins are more preserved than others because you have to think of getting to them. And while I did want them to be kind of as populous as rats or chickens, you don't see chickens in the tundra kind of thing. So since they're lizard-ish base, the colder the climate, the less you'll see them.
Interesting.
There are clues to history in a sense too, because like say you have a ruin that's been consumed by them, the creatures there would bear facts about that history in their bodies.
Right, but for how long does this imprint last?
That's what I
question.
mean.
Yeah.
Think of how old they can possibly get. That I'm up in the air about, because you might be able to have it just like, oh, that one's fucking huge. How long has that one been eating? In which case you could get into the weirdness. Or it could be like, nah, they never really get bigger than a cat.
Okay. I like the idea of kind of keeping that up in the air. So in the future, you can be like, oh, that thing's fucking massive.
Or, yeah, someone sees it as just like, no, that can't be it. That's not a sprig rat.
It's, wait a minute. Oh, God. Yeah, I'm totally down with
Or
that.
it's massive, but it's not harmful. It's kind of like a pug when they eat too much. They just get like useless and really huge. They can't breathe right.
My family had 3 pugs.
Oh, my condolences.
I love pugs, by the way.
Pugs are adorable. I love pugs as well.
They're cute and everything, but I after I get over the cuteness, I'm just like, oh, you poor thing. What did genes do to you?
Exactly.
Yeah, they can't. Well, it's not even genes. It's the way that humans bred them to be like smush-faced. It's our fault.
Oh, yeah, we've done that to so many animals.
Yeah. There's another one, too.
Any purebred dog.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, on that horribly depressing note. Well, that's actually more...
Spay and neuter your pets.
Well, no, that's actually more appropriate than you think. It's an ecological, like, kind of humanistic kind of way of putting it.
Oh, I just realized it could be imagine going into a city and just like, don't forget to spay and neuter your sprig rat.
Oh yeah, or even like,
so much.
actually no, you could probably have a city that has only fed sprig rats a specific type of food for generations, and so now they only eat that particular thing. Mm-hmm. And we're not talking about like, like purebreds and stuff like that, but a matter of like they only eat trash or they only eat, like this particular type of food. Where it's a matter of, hey, we don't need to get rid of it because we have the sprig rats to take care of it, stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely. All right. So I think that'll just about do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. And again, if you have any questions, you can always email us at worldbuildwithus@gmail.com. If you want to have your own episode like Cass did, I mean, they just sent an email. So if you want your own email, if you want your own episode, shoot us an email. If that's too much work, you can also tweet at us through the Twitters at Let's Worldbuild and follow us for all sorts of information. You don't have to, but you can.
It'd be nice.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
It'd be nice. And until next week, remember that we love you very much, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye. I love those little